Are Democratic senators unintelligent or corrupt? We'll tackle that question in a minute. First, Rachel Cohen's joining us, senior policy reporter at Vox.com. Rachel, I am going to ask you that question in a little bit, but I'm going to give context of your article first. But even before we get to that, there's been new developments since you wrote about the Democratic plans on abortion and fighting back, if you can call it that, and no, you cannot call it that. This on Friday morning, President Biden had a press conference and released an executive order. I read that executive order several times and still couldn't figure out what was in it. It appears to be the world's largest nothing burger. Did I miss anything?
I would say it's the kind of thing that he should have done on day one. Is sort of how people feel. Like, it is good that he is kind of calling for this, what they call whole of government response, for sort of directing each agency to do stuff. And I think people have kind of been like, all right, this is better than it was 2 weeks ago, but it's still pretty vague on multiple parts of the order. I would say it's progress, but it's still like the bar is pretty low right now. But he's kind of like speaking. I think the speech he gave was with the tone and sort of emphasis that he should have given on June 24th.
Yeah, he had to figure out how to pretend to care. And then the executive order is a lot of commissions and potential actions by agencies later, and maybe they'll figure out what to do, maybe they won't. Which leads us to your story. First of all, let's acknowledge Senate Democrats had 6 weeks to prepare for this before the decision came out because of the leak, obviously, and then they've had 2 weeks since then. So I know in Washington, people think that Democrats are not incompetent, which I find to be stunning. But can people at least admit, even in Washington, that that was unbelievable incompetence to not have a plan ready when the decision came down?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started doing the reporting and I was trying to understand why there was not really a plan ready to go. First, people said, well, they're on recess, but recess was expected, and we knew this was coming at the end of June. And the other sort of response is like, well, they're sort of wanting to see how it's received in the media. They kind of waiting to see what happened. They're kind of waiting to see what happened to shape the response around that. I think people are still in Washington, are still in their sort of baffled stage. Like, they sort of couldn't believe that there wasn't something else coming. And now I think it is dawning, and I tried to make clear in my story that there really was no clear strategy prepared for this moment, despite, and you said 6 weeks. I mean, it's minimum 6 weeks, but we've been talking, certainly legal experts have thought this was coming for several years, so.
Yeah, I mean, were they so stupid that they didn't think that the conservative justices would rule against them? That they were honest during their but Biden really might be that unintelligent because he thinks the fever is going to break any second. Listen to the answer, right? And Rachel's just relaying what's happening in Washington and what Democrats are saying. Recess, that's saying, oh, you lost women's rights, but I was on vacation. Oh, what a great excuse. And we're gonna wait to see how it's received in the media. Profiles encourage. All right, so now in your piece you talk about this Tim Kaine bill, where Tim Kaine is trying to do a compromise with Republicans to get 60 votes. Are they mental? Like, that's a real question. Are they mental? Do Democratic senators actually believe that they can get something that protects abortion that 10 Republicans would agree to in the Senate? How can anyone be that unintelligent?
I think that he has said that it would still be significant if they could at least get a majority of the senators, so over 50, because that's something the Democrats haven't been able to get on their bill. So I think that's kind of the sort of like lower bar of not passing anything that they're trying to reach. And he's saying he hopes, like he's like, I think there'd be value in that because the courts are still looking at this question. I guess sort of one of the big things that emerged in the reporting is like, we had the infrastructure bill where they did reach an agreement. They had the gun bill where they did reach an agreement, and a lot of people thought that wasn't gonna happen. And so there is this question, like, is there something to be reached on abortion? And even if you can't, should you try? And the vast majority of the Democratic caucus and the reproductive rights groups are saying, no, it's not possible. Don't try. It's a waste of time. We should just be focusing on sort of put our energies elsewhere. But there are some people who are saying like, Democrats may be wiped out in November. The idea of even getting over 50 could be a far cry by December. We don't know. So should we try even if we can't get it? And I would say most Democrats right now are saying no, but there is a small minority that's saying like we should try.
Yeah, you're definitely answering the question. Rachel's a reporter, she's just giving facts as to what's happening in Washington. So yeah, my interpretation of your answer is, yeah, Tim Kaine is the most clueless person in America, unless he's corrupt. Because the gun bill is a good example of that, Rachel, because what do? They passed a gun bill that had nothing in it. And what was it? It was a CYA operation. It covered the ass of the Republicans. It helped the Republicans pretend that they did something about the massacres when they didn't do a goddamn thing. And most of them voted against it.
I mean, I don't know, like, yeah. I mean, just for the record, I don't think that.
What was in the gun bill?
But it's your show, so you can obviously.
No, I know, Rachel. You have to pretend that this like makes sense, but like, so what was in the gun bill? Give me one Democratic priority that was in the gun bill.
No, I think on the gun bill that I think that it helps on the state and local level to like send a message that it kind of helps depolarize it a little bit, which makes it easier to act. I don't think that passing this bill, which did close the boyfriend loophole, which I think is really important. Like, whatever. We don't have to get into the merits of it's obviously weak, but I think there's positive benefits that happen on the state and local level when they manage to get an agreement in Washington. But that's that is the answer. So see, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to get at Rachel's opinions. I'm trying to get at what do people in Washington think based on our reporting. And so you mentioned there, for example, with gun legislation, there's this idea that if they pass something, that it has positive reverberating consequences at the states, et cetera. So for example, when Tim Kaine says, hey, maybe we can get 53 votes on an abortion bill, that'll have positive consequences. So has anybody ever asked them what those are? Do they think that Republicans at the state level will then go, oh, they got 53 votes. Oh, okay, you know what? We're gonna make abortion legal in Mississippi. I didn't know that. Okay, like no, and I know I'm being sarcastic, but I'm being literal. Like, yeah, I think that they're not drawing the same argument for the gun bill to the abortion stuff. The positive effects of that, I think he was talking about for courts that are still looking at the issues. Like
I don't understand that either. Yeah, like so help me understand why a bill that doesn't pass
is saying in the legislative history and what the debates are like. And so anyway, it could, yeah, I personally think that, what do you think they should do nothing? Like that, that's really
Rachel,
the question everyone's arguing about right now.
Oh, Rachel, it's so easy what they could do. That's what drives me crazy, that they always pretend there's nothing they could do. So Manchin and Sinema are gone. They're already Republicans. There's literally no benefit to them staying Democrats. So what Biden and everybody else should do is they should put pressure and say, hey, you know who's blocking voting rights and women's rights, let alone Build Back Better and our entire agenda? It's Manchin and Sinema, that's factual. And then they should put enormous pressure on them. And everybody goes, oh, well then they'll turn Republican. Too late, they already are, right? So then what that would create, Rachel, is that would actually create reverberating consequences, right? Where the voters go, well, look, they didn't win, but man, Biden shredded Manchin. And they kicked Sinema out of the party and she's gonna lose her primary. So I get it, they're trying to get voting rights. They're trying to codify Roe. And you know what? Now that I see they're actually fighting for it, if I can get them 2 more senators, maybe we can do this thing. But when they say, oh no, Manchin and Sinema, we don't want to offend them, so we're just gonna lay down in front of the tracks and never criticize them, everybody gets a message. No, you're not gonna fight them. You view Democratic colleagues as more important than your voters. So that would be a thing to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Biden did criticize Manchin with the CTC stuff in December, and it didn't go well. We ended up not extending it. I think, but I like that is a theory of like maybe voters will be more energized if Biden was more aggressive about the obstructionist nature of them on this. I think that a lot of the pro-choice coalition is not in the percentage of people that are where I personally politically fall. Like, you know, I think a lot of pro-choice voters are probably a little more sympathetic to those moderate Democrats than a lot of.
I don't think so at all.
Than a lot of, so like
I think the pro-choice voters despise Manchin and Sinema now. And if you actually told them how much they're screwing them. So for example, I mean, Rachel.
A lot of pro-choice voters are not pro-abortion. That's that's just part of the coalition. It's like people who are pro-choice, people who are anti-government being involved, and people, you know, that those are combined. So it's a little, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I think that the people who run the organizations in Washington and Democratic leadership are 1 billion% out of touch. I think if you ask pro-choice voters, do you want to fight Manchin because he's blocking your ability to have reproductive rights, or do you want to kiss his ass like Biden and the other groups are? There's going to be a very, very clear answer to that, and it isn't going to be kiss their ass. So I think Washington is insane, completely disconnected from the American people, has no idea what's happening. And you know how I know I'm right, Rachel? The poll numbers for Biden are a disaster. And the idiot thinks it's because he did too much and that he was too progressive. I mean, does anyone in Washington realize in Democratic leadership, hey schmucks, everyone thinks you did too little? So that's my last question. Have they even considered that possibility, or are they like, oh, we were too progressive? We're definitely too progressive, because that's what I see in all the articles.
I don't think that they are interpreting the terrible, and I agree, terrible poll numbers as a reflection of like overreaching on progressive legislation. I think they are sort of playing in their mind. It's like, oh, it's just inflation, you know, the Ukraine sort of stuff. I don't think the Biden administration right now is taking much responsibility for their poll numbers, and
yeah.
But I don't think it's because I don't think they're saying our poll numbers are because we messed up. I just think they're not taking responsibility in any way, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, everybody, I learned from Rachel's piece at Vox.com. I think you can too. Senior policy reporter at Vox, Rachel Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.